This is Laurence Archer from Grand Slam, and you're listening to glammetal.com.
Welcome to the Glam Metal Interview Series, presented by rockmusicstar.com, with host Thomas S. Orwat Jr.
Hey everyone, it's Thomas from Rock Music Star with episode number 7 of the Glam Metal Interview Series. For this episode, recorded on August 20th, 2020, I have superstar guitarist Laurence Archer of the band Grand Slam and formerly of UFO as my guest. During this interview, Laurence reflects on working with the legendary bass player Pete Way, who passed away on August 14th. Laurence was a member of UFO with Pete from 1992 to 1995 and recently was a guitarist in the Pete Way band. Laurence also explains what it was like performing with UFO and recording and co-writing the band's 13th studio record, High Stakes and Dangerous Men. In addition, Laurence discusses his band Grand Slam, which he originally formed in 1984 with Phil Lynott of Thin Lizzy. So sit back and listen. Here he is, Laurence Archer. We are on the phone with guitar superstar Laurence Archer. Laurence, how are you today?
I'm good, man. I'm very good, thank you. I'm suffering a bit with the heat here in Spain. It's 40 plus degrees here every day at the moment. It's good. But yeah, I'm very good, thank you.
Well, I want to express my condolences to you on the death of your bandmate Pete Way. It kind of really came to us. I mean, he had lived a lifestyle that, you know, kind of like in the fast lane, but this kind of came to us as a surprise.
Well, Pete's always been one to defy things regarding his health and life in general, really. And you know, he was always the life and soul of the party, and a lovely man, a really lovely man. And you know, I loved him to death. And he was a great guy to be around. And he did have an unfortunate accident, and it was very sad to see him go the way he did and that quickly, because we thought he was going to make a recovery at some point. But he lived a life full, and you know, he's had some health issues in the last couple of years, and to be honest, I think he lived a good innings, you know, considering what his lifestyle was like.
Yeah. Now you played with Pete on 2 different occasions. You played with him recently in the Pete Way band, and then you were also a member of UFO for 3 years back in 1992 to 1995. What was it like performing with Pete and being in the band with Pete?
It was always fun on stage. I mean, Pete and I loved playing together on stage. It was always fun, especially in UFO days. You know, it was a bit wild, willing and innocent, as it were. It was a bit crazy, but we had a great time. Lots of practical jokes, some I can't go into, but you know, lots of practical jokes on tour with UFO. But yeah, no, I loved him to death. He was like a brother to me for a long time. When he put together his solo project in the last couple of years, he asked me if I wanted to come out and play guitar, and I said yeah. He said, like, I've done some of the recording already, and I'm not in control of it anymore because it's in America, so I really would have loved you to play on the album, but some of it's been done already. So it just we ended up rehearsing a lot, putting some songs together, and then we went out on tour. And Pete didn't really play bass anymore. He wanted to concentrate on his singing. You know, he could have done one or the other, but he couldn't do both. So he ended up not playing bass, so we got a bass player in, and he just sang. But you know, it was a bit Marmite for people, but he was total rock star all the time, and it was great to get him out, you know, and he felt really positive about stuff, and he was doing a great job, you know.
Yeah. What do you think led to his decision to go from playing bass to taking on the lead vocal responsibilities?
Well, Pete's always been a writer, and he's always had a penchant for doing a little bit of singing. And, you know, in the Wasted scenario, when he did a lot of the writing there, and he wrote his in the Wasted thing, and a lot of time he would demo the stuff, you know, he would demo the stuff and sing it before the band actually did it. So it was sort of a natural progression. And I think he had a very unique voice. I mean, if I don't know what's happening with the material now on the new album.
Yeah.
I mean, if you ever get to hear it, you know, it's a pretty unique sound. I can't really explain it, but it's you know, he goes from weirdly from like Leonard Cohen all the way up to, you know, Bon Scott in some respects. You know, he's got that strange, he's got that thing where he can really force it, and the other things where he's sort of very influenced by that sort of that period stuff, the Leonard Cohen stuff and all that. I mean, you know, it's pretty unique, but it was good, you know, it was good.
Were there any plans for the Pete Way Band to tour North America?
Did he have plans to come to the United States?
Yeah, was that maybe a possibility? Was that ever discussed with you guys?
Yeah. I mean, obviously that was the long-term goal. I think we were already being offered gigs in Australia and various other parts of the continent, but I think Pete had to overcome a few issues with visas and stuff like that in America to get back to America. But I think that would have been overcome pretty quickly with the album and everything that's linked to it. You know, I mean, Slash played guitar on the album. I mean, I think it would have gone. I think it still will go. At least 2 or 3 of the tracks on there will go massive, because I think there's good potential in them, you know.
Yeah, it seemed like from what I've heard about it, he had some all-stars like Slash, and Mike Klink was producing it. I mean, it had a lot of, you know, well-known people involved in the project. So yeah, I'm sure it would have done really well, and I hope it does see the light of day one of these days.
I do too, yeah. I mean, even if it's just an EP or a single or a one-off or whatever it is, it deserves to be out there. That one track. I mean, there's one track that Slash plays on that we did on tour. I'm trying to think of the actual title now. But it's a fantastic track, and it's a real hard slog track, and you know, it's a proper rock and roll bit of rock and roll. And Slash does a great job on it.
Wow.
And we did it on tour, and it went down fantastically every night.
Yeah,
it was one of those where people sort of singing quite hard on it, and it sounded very British.
Wow. Was that the only song that you guys did on tour? Was that the only one from the Pete Way Band that you did?
Yeah, in the Pete Way Band, yeah.
Okay. I want to discuss a little bit about your time in UFO. You guys, I think personally, you guys put out a really good record with High Stakes and Dangerous Men. I thought that was a really good record. Some great songs on that. It seemed like in the videos I was watching, it seemed like, you know, both Pete and Phil were both re-energized in that lineup. I mean, Phil had a lot of energy on stage.
Yeah.
And your guitar playing was incredible.
I mean, the whole thing about that project at that time, or the band at that time, was Pete and Phil, to some extent, had been asking me to join the band for a while, and they'd been constantly in search for a guitar player, and I think they came to America and auditioned many guitar players, but nobody really worked out. So Pete called me and said, you know, would you be interested in doing it this time? And I went, yeah, okay, that's fine, but I want you to assure me that there's going to be no it's going to be commitment from both of you, and you're not going to be drinking, and we're going to commit to it, and we're not going to, you know, it was all a case at that point UFO needed to impress some of the bigger promoters and make sure that we were going to be there, and nobody was going to, you know, it wasn't like the Michael and Phil times when they were punching each other and not turning up to gigs and all that sort of thing. So I just wanted to go, if I'm going to commit to this, I need you to both promise me that you're going to make an effort. And they did, and Phil was completely dry, and Pete sort of cleaned up his act quite. I mean, he didn't totally, because he's always been that happy-go-lucky sort of slightly, have a few drinks before you go on type guy. But everybody accepted him for that, and that's what he was. And he was, it was fine. He could still perform, and he could, so. But I think my, what can I say? I want to say professionalism, but my goal was to get it back up onto a level that I thought I'd hoped that they'd, want to achieve themselves, and they did. And
yeah.
Phil stepped up to the plate in the end. But I had a long discussion with Phil when we started writing the album. I mean, essentially, most of the songs I'd actually written myself prior to, or was writing, as we were rehearsing. And Phil said to me, I really want to sing songs. I love Bruce Springsteen. I love this. I love that. I just want to sing songs, So I naturally write songs. I don't write guitar riffs. Although I'm a guitarist, when I write, I don't actually write round a guitar riff like something that has no particular melody over it. It's just a guitar riff over a key. So this vocalists essentially have to make their own thing going with it. Whereas with Phil, with that album, I tried to write songs that were very chordal based. So Phil could, he had that prowess to sing and have proper melodic emphasis in the songs, rather than it just be a riff. It's like trying to make up lyrics over a riff over Rock Bottom, for example. I mean, he did a great job, but I mean, what I'm saying is, it's a classic song, but for a singer, it's a very hard thing to sing, to make up something over a riff, rather than when somebody's strumming chords to them. It's a slightly more natural way to have a more singy song rather than, So I went down that line a little bit, but tried to keep the UFO element to it.
Yeah.
So that's happened with that album.
Yeah. What was the band's frame of mind during that time? I mean, that was a rough time for rock music. 1992 to 1995, with in America at least, with grunge music and alternative music pretty much dominating. A lot of rock bands just fell off the face of the earth at that time.
Yeah, well, it was a very difficult scene in England, because for quite a couple of years even before that, there were a lot of great bands around in the late 80s and early 90s, and lots of them didn't get signed because bottom fell out of rock music in England, and nobody was getting signed. I think Thunder were probably the last band to get signed, and they, that was a bit of a situation. So nobody was getting signed. So we had to go. I mean, really, truly, our main audience was mainstream Europe and Japan and Eastern Europe. So that's what we focused on. That's where we toured, really. So that was the main thing for us. And yeah, it was hard. And I can only go from my experience in the UK, but just felt like they'd abandoned rock. It was like nobody, they had a big, massive rock audience, but it was like the industry completely dropped it. They pulled the rug from underneath it.
Yeah.
Which is, I found astonishing, considering most of the big record companies were still earning their revenue, which was supporting all these other bands that were doing nothing, or pop bands or 1 minute wonders. all the revenue was coming from big things like Peter Gabriel, Led Zeppelin, Phil Collins, Deep Purple, all the mainstream acts from Genesis, all those people.
Yeah.
Those were the people that were still bringing the revenue into the record companies. So it was a bit strange knowing that fact, but they weren't interested in, backing up any rock artists or even developing any rock artists. It was a sad time, really.
Yeah.
Sad time.
Yeah, absolutely was.
But
What was your take, or what was your approach when trying to do the classic UFO songs and playing the Schenker riffs? I noticed that you don't play them note for note. You kind of throw your own style in there, which I kind of find to be very very unique and refreshing. And they gave you Phil and Pete were okay giving you that liberty to kind of like put your own like spin on the solos.
yeah. I mean, I have this thing in that when I go and see a musician, I want to see them do their thing. I don't want to see them copying anybody else. Also, if somebody does a studio album that's an amazing studio album, and I still want to go to see a concert where I want to see the musicians stretch themselves or add things or be different, or go, oh, that night that guy did a massive long guitar solo, or they did this thing where they turned it all around and they did a middle eight that we had before. To me, that's an interesting part of live music. That's what live music is about. I don't want to go to see a band that's going to replicate exactly what I've just heard in my car on the CD to the concert, because to me that's just boring. I can go and see a covers band do the same.
Yeah.
If you're a good musician, you express and interpret the thing your way and you do it. That's, I used to go and see guitar players, drummers, bass players, whoever they were, and I go and see them because they would mix it up and they would do something that would sometimes astound you, because you'd go, wow, that's just completely blown my mind. And to be honest, that point, stronger than anybody, said, I'm sick of singing these songs. I don't want to sing these songs anymore. I want to just sing the songs off our album. And when we did go out, we actually did, I would say, something like 60 or 70, 30, the songs off our album and the old stuff.
Yeah.
We obviously did Rock Bottom and a couple of other bits and pieces, and you're here. But we still did 5 or 6 of the tracks off a new album.
Right.
And at the time, what I remember very clearly was Phil saying to me, I've been doing these songs for years, and I'd really like to take a back step and not do these songs anymore and do more new material. And obviously, now and again, you have to play the classic tracks. That's what a lot of people want. But the thing that astounded me, because I went down, I think I spoke to Phil on the phone, and they were playing in a club in the south of England, and I said, go down, and I went down, and they just done a new album. They just finished a new album, just been released, and they did, their set was, I would say, 95% Strangers in the Night.
Yep.
And they did one song off of the new album. I just found that astounding. I just found that really astounding that it was almost like a disbelief in what they were doing, because they wouldn't, at least when we went out, we did 50 or 60% was the new tracks.
Yeah.
And we gave them what they wanted with the classic ones. But I said to Phil afterwards, I said, okay, so, you've gone back to singing. He said, well, that's the way cookie crumbles, But and it's as far as my guitar playing, and I'm doing it the same as Michael. I'm doing, I didn't want to do stuff the same as Michael. I love Michael's guitar playing, and if I thought I'm going to spend time trying to emulate Michael, then I probably could have done that. But in the end, I decided to play it the way I felt natural. Not force anything in any direction, just play it the way I would do it.
Yeah.
And that's the way it ended up.
I heard the live record Lights Out in Tokyo and loved that. And also the ex-UFO band live record that you released a few years back. I thought your guitar work was amazing on both of those. I thought your guitar was amazing on that. Absolutely incredible. That blew me away.
Yeah. That album and that band were... no, I mean, we shook some people up with that band. It was quite strange, really, because we went out, but the energy on stage was just incredible. And I think I played a festival show last year. It was the last gig that we did as that lineup. And, we had guys from all sorts of bands standing on the side of the stage,
Oh, yeah.
Guitar players that there, and it was just an incredible show. I love that band. I love playing in it. It was brilliant to play in. The energy was just incredible.
Yes.
And that was me, Rocky Newton, Danny Parinel, and Clive Edwards, who was in the UFO lineup. When I was in it, I actually brought him in because Andy Parker had to. The time Andy Parker's dad was very ill, and Andy Parker had to go back to America when we were rehearsing.
Oh,
so I got Clive in, so that happened.
Nice. Did you have warning that UFO was going to get back together with the classic lineup when you were in the band, or did it kind of just come very suddenly?
At the time when we were touring, there was a lot of talk about us going stateside with a lineup of us plus Michael.
Oh, wow.
And it was being discussed in a bit like we would play and Michael would come on as a special guest, or we'd do a dual headline and Michael would come on as a special guest, that type of thing. At the time, unfortunately, not unfortunately, but I made the decision to leave because when we were playing in, and Phil and Pete fell off the wagon quite heavily, and that's when I decided to. There were a lot of people, a lot of friends, a lot of other bands, a lot of promoters, a lot of managers, all there and very much aware of what was going on. And I just thought, well, maybe we've just blown the last 3 years of what we've been doing, in one show, So Phil fell off the stage, broke his leg, drunk. So it was quite a horrific incident, really. And that's when I said, I didn't want to carry on in the way it was. So I went back. I had a very young daughter at the time, so I went back and I said, well, do you know what? I want to take a break from touring. So I took a break from touring, had to think about it. And during that time, Phil's leg healed, and they obviously decided to go to America and get Michael back involved. So they went where the money was, really. That's really the way it happened here.
Yeah. Huh. Wow. I want to spend some time talking about your current project, Grand Slam. That was a band that you originally had back in 1984 with Phil Lynott, who, by the way, today's his 71st birthday.
It is indeed, yes. It is Phil's birthday today.
So
happy.
Laurence, I would like to discuss your band Grand Slam. You originally formed it with Phil Lynott during 1984. It was a great band, a great live band. You guys had a really good reputation. but you've struggled getting the attention of major labels. Why do you think it was so difficult to get labels interested in a band with a legend like Phil in it?
Well, yeah. Well, the project was UK based at the time, although we played in Ireland in the first part of the process of forming the band. It was very much UK record company based. In the UK, Phil had, let's just say, Phil had a very negative press at the time through his drug habit.
Oh, okay.
And that basically was the thing that stopped the record companies from putting their money on where their mouth was. And it wasn't like they weren't interested, because everywhere we went, we were getting followed by record companies. Everywhere we went, we were getting spoken to. I think they were just trying to see if they thought they could invest, and all the red top press here were not being favourable towards Phil in the press, and there was lots of things like double baked breads in beans about crashing parties or getting raided at parties and getting being put in jail and all that type of thing. So it wasn't a very positive thing in the UK. I think that is something that took a little while to get around.
Yeah.
And if it had carried on, then maybe we would have got around it. I mean, at the end of the day, Phil got a solo deal on 2 of my songs. No, it was a shame, because it was a great band. It was a great band, and we wrote some great songs.
And that band is minus Phil. That band is back together now.
Yeah, well, essentially, when we put the band together originally, we did a host of different demos and different recordings, some complete recordings, some just demo recordings. And what's been released, mainly bootlegged, and what's out to the public are very bad versions of work in progress demos of the songs. And ever since it's happened, I've always said, whenever I can afford to, time-wise and monetary-wise, I want to record songs in that they were meant to be heard.
Yeah.
And in the way that they should be heard. But not only for my benefit, but for Phil's benefit and everybody else involved. But so I sort of went through the last 3 years. About 3 years ago, I started going over the songs again and rearranging them and making sure that they kept the element of what we had in the first place. But then I found the right guys to do it. Spent a load of money, found the right studio, and we recorded the album.
Oh.
We got Adrian Bushby, who did from the Foo Fighters fame of mixing, to mix the album, and then we had the rest of the album was done by the guy Andy Riley, who did the UFO album for me. He did our UFO albums. So Kit Walden did the first one, but Andy Riley did the live Lights Out in Tokyo album.
Right. That's a good one.
So yeah. So we got him to redo some of the tracks. We weren't happy with some of the stuff that Adrian had done, but we used half Adrian and half Andy on there, and you know. But what's come out, the end product has been great, and the feedback and it's just been incredible. And the live shows have just blown me away. And we were right in the middle of the sort of promo tour, really, for the album when the COVID hit. So we're sort of in a bit of limbo, really, at the moment. We have Marshall signed to Marshall Records, and we have MGI in America and Better Noise in America. And we're just waiting to tour before we Better Noise are going to sort of back us up with all the hard copy and tour support with Marshall Records in the UK. So that's where we are with that. You know, we're just hanging here waiting for it to happen, really, waiting for the, you know, this thing to allow us to come out and play again.
Yeah, right. All right, Laurence, let's end the interview with one last question. At this point in your career, what do you think is your biggest and your accomplishment that you're most proud of at this moment?
Well, I'll have to say the new Grand Slam album.
Okay.
To be quite honest, it's everything I ever visualised and wanted. I mean, you know, I wrote the songs in the first place with Phil, but to capture what we did and do it the way we did and have the musicians on it and the end product is everything, you know, I visualised, and I couldn't really want for much more. If I was going to say anything else, then I would say you know, playing with you at that age when I was, you know, when I was a younger man and having that experience with UFO, doing that album, which I'm very proud of.
Yeah, great record.
I get so many people, especially in America, messaging me all the time about that album, saying, you know, how it changed their lives, how it was, you know, why isn't it, why do, you know, there's a hardcore of, I would say probably Michael Schenker fans more than UFO fans, but there's a hardcore that sort of you know, they don't recognise the album as a proper UFO album because it hasn't got Michael on it, which is ridiculous, really, because
right.
UFOs had quite a few different guitar players over the time.
Yeah.
Obviously, Michael was at the prime, but you know, all those things make me proud. I get a lot of people giving me a lot of really good feedback, and they're very kind, and they, you know, just to touch those people has been awesome, really.
Yeah.
And you know, at the moment I'm here in Spain, the whole lockdown thing has been a bit strange, and I've been going out playing, and people have been recognising me, getting up, and I'm getting some, you know, I'm having a great time here, you know, because at the moment, up until today, we can still go out and play in local, you know, bars, clubs, and various other arenas. But I think they're putting a halt to that today. But it's just been a gas, you know. It's just been a real gas playing, and I've had so many compliments about the Grand Slam album. And you know, the vids, the Gone Are the Days, and Hit the Ground, and the acoustic version of Sisters of Mercy, strangely. But yeah, no, it's been good, and yeah, I'm proud of all of it. So
yeah,
there you go.
Well, you should be. Well, Laurence, I want to thank you again for your time, and this was really fun talking to you like this. And we'll keep in touch, and looking forward to reviewing the Grand Slam CD when it comes out. Yeah. And that concludes our interview with Laurence Archer. For more on Laurence and his band Grand Slam, please visit grandslamrocks.com. For more Glam Metal interview series episodes, please visit glammetal.com and rockmusicstar.com. And special thanks to Eric Robner for providing our kick-ass theme music.